In the last video, we covered graphing parent functions or going over the rules of the quick sketches. So I'm going to continue with that, but this time we're going to be using inequalities. So the first steps. First, you need to put it in the proper format, meaning you have y or f of x on one side and all the numbers on the other. So if I look at this problem here, then it's not in the right format. First thing I need to do is move the 4 to the other side. We added 4 to both sides to give us 6. Now we can graph this. The center for this one is going to be at 2, 6, and the graph is pointing up. Now again, we covered how to graph these in the last video. If you're not sure how I'm doing this, please refer to the last video. The inequality, this says greater than, y greater than. Don't think inside, outside, left, right, always think up and down. At my y value, I need the y's that are getting bigger. Well, that just happens to be on the inside of my graph. So y is greater than means all the numbers that are going to be greater than the y value. So finally we cross the y-axis and go up. This happens to be inside your graph. So it's going to look like this. Your absolute value is going to hold the shading. All right, the next one. Again, first thing I need to do is to get the y all by itself. I'm going to start by subtracting 3 from both sides. Now I need to get rid of the negative 2. The opposite of multiplying is dividing, so I divide everything by negative 2. Gives me y. Now I divided across an inequality by a negative. Divide by a negative, we flip the inequality. This inequality is over 2. It's a lot easier to put a 1/2 in front. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 is a plus 1. We graph the same rules that we normally do. Our center point is going to be at negative 1, 1. There's a 1/2 in front, so normally I'd move over 1, down 1, but here it's a half. So if I move over 1, I'm only going to go down a half. That's kind of difficult to graph, so I'm going to go over 2. Half of 2 is 1. I'm going to choose my next even number. I'm going to go over 4. Half of 4 is 2. Whatever I do on one side, do the other. Now the reason why this graph is twice as wide is because of the negative sign in front. Some of you might have noticed there's no equal sign there. It's just a less than. So this should actually be a dashed line. And same thing in the last one. We should have dashed lines here because it's not equal to, it's only a greater than sign. Back to this graph. Double check it. The negative pointed down. The 1/2 made it wider. And I double check my center, negative 1, 1. Now for the shading. This says greater than. So again, find the y value and go up. Well, if I'm going up, that puts me on the outside. So everything on the outside is going to be shaded. Here we have 2 circles that we're going to draw very quickly. The center is at 3, 1. Again, remember your rebellious numbers. We always choose the opposite signs. The radius squared is 16. So if r squared is equal to 16, we need a square root, and we get a radius of 4. So plus or minus in all directions. Fill in the circle. Now it says greater than your radius. Circles are different. You're not looking for greater than y. You're looking for greater than what? Greater than is pointing at your radius. So if it's greater than your radius, that means that the highlighting is going to be outside of your radius, which means everything outside the circle. We'll do one more really fast. Center, negative 1, 2. Radius is equal to 2 because the square root of 4. Now notice this says less than. It doesn't say or equal to. So we need those dashed lines. So you have a circle with the dashed lines. This says less than. Less than your radius means you're going to be inside the radius, which means inside the circle. We have 2 absolute values here. We have less than or equal to. Our center point, 3, negative 2. So your graph is going to look basically like this. Now we have a less than. Because it was equal to, I'm solid, I need to shade less than. Well, if I go at my y-axis, it says less than. That means we're going to be pointing down. So you're going to shade in the down direction. Problem is that nothing on the graph is to the left of positive 3. There's nothing over here at all. So we are only shading to the right of positive 3, which looks a little bit funny, but should make sense because our graph is literally starting at that point. Think of your domain and your range. Another one on the right, our center, -1, 4. And this says y is greater than or equal to. So the or equal to gave us the solid line. The greater than means we're shading all the y's above, so the upside. And we're going to not go past that -1. Now this one is backwards. It gave you a picture and it's asking you what the equation is. So we can say f of x or we can say y equals, doesn't really matter. We'll go ahead and use f of x in function notation. Look for the center. Well, if each of these lines is 2, we know that our center right there in the x value is at -4. And in the y value went up to 3. Then look for the multiplier, their number in front. It looks like they moved over 2 because we're counting by 2's. They also went down 2. So if they moved over 2 in this direction, they went down 2. So it looks like 2 over 2 is going to give us a multiplier of 1. So there's not going to be any other number. For the absolute value, it's only a negative in front. Then it's going to be x plus 4, because we did the opposite, plus the 3 on the outside. Now we need to come back and look at the inequality. It was shaded above, so that means we're going to have an inequality that is greater than, and it's dashed. So we won't put an equal sign because it's dashed.